Welcome to our show here tonight. Welcome to We'll Sing and We'll Shout. I am your host, Steve Hansen. We are here on a Monday night. It's cold and wet and rainy here in Provo, Utah, but we're anxious to jump on here tonight and share some exciting things. This being Monday night, it is our 10th. I think it's our 10th installment of the Cheryl's boyfriend's countdown calendar, and so we're going to be jumping into that in just a moment here. Um, what was it that I wanted to share? Well, I was not up on the roof today. It was wet and rainy here, so I got a break from the roof today. It was kind of funny, sure, after working on that for a couple of days last week. I was so tired, but then Sunday, after not working on it, I felt so good. It was like this energy, from working really hard,
Right.
energy that kind of comes out. It reminded me of, cleaning out the barn, and how John Hoy and I would go out there and just spend all day. It'd be like a 14, 16-hour day out there cleaning on that barn. And by the time we were done, I was just so exhausted I could hardly walk.
Uh-huh.
But and the next day you'd be so tired. But then, like, the day after, it was like you had all this renewed energy from deep inside. It was just kind of weird. So, experienced some of that here today. But so
So
kind
the
of
roof's going
anxious.
to be okay, even though it's been raining?
Yeah, well, we got all the underlayment on, and
Yeah.
so the underlayment is what really protects the roof, and the shingles kind of protect the underlayment. So,
Okay.
it'll be just fine. But yeah, we're anxious to get up there and get going on that. And I went and looked at a couple of new projects, one up in Lehigh and one up in Sandy here today while it was raining. I went out and checked out a couple new things, and then somebody in my neighborhood is interested in building a shed, so we may get involved in that project. We'll have to see. So
They probably
fun
saw
stuff.
you up on the roof.
Yeah, and that does help. Sometimes that does inspire people, like, oh, she's getting a new roof. Maybe I should get a new roof. So
Keeping up
just
with the Joneses.
get that little jealousy, that roof jealousy thing going. That's
That's
always helpful. So anyway, when you guys need a new roof on your establishment there, let me know. Um, but hey, without further ado, we'll jump right in and let Cheryl talk about 10th grade boyfriends, right?
Yeah, we're at 10th grade already.
Yes, awesome. All right, well, hey, go ahead.
So, this is like the time when you could actually maybe find a spouse. I mean, there are
Yeah,
people who have done it. Sure.
yeah, that's right. You start looking around.
Yep.
So,
My son
I,
Josh and his wife Megan, they started liking each other when they were 13 and 12. So they've
you know,
never dated anybody else.
my perspective on that when I was in high school is like I saw kids come back from college and whatnot, and you saw the older kids, and it just seemed like when people left high school, they just got older and uglier. And in my mind, it was like, if I don't get this figured out before I leave this high school, I may never marry. Um, I mean,
That's
that's
really
kind of what it
funny.
it's kind of what it looked like to me. It's like I have got to get this figured out, or this may never happen. And
Right. Well, they always say
fortunately,
that girls in their freshman year of college gain 15 pounds. It's called the freshman 15.
yeah, yeah. So it's like, man, I gotta get this figured out now, or this may never happen. But
Right.
anyway, fortunately, that's not quite how it went. But when I did come home from Australia, I snagged one who was just shortly out of high school. She wasn't even out of high school a year before I started dating her.
Right.
So I was all over that situation. But anyway, hey, go ahead.
All right. Well, tonight I'm going to be discussing two young men. And one of them is named Jim Burnham. And I met Jim at some sort of a stake activity. These are both church guys I'm going to be discussing. So you won't know them if you're from Bellevue. Um, we did a stake activity up near some sort of a stake.
Sorry.
Oh, okay. Anyway, up near Cleveland. It was maybe like I remember we spent the day outdoors. I don't know if it was a service project or what it was, but I ran across this young man and he was just beautiful. I mean, he was tall and slender and he kind of had that Sean Cassidy feathered golden hair and oh my gosh, the most beautiful blue eyes I have ever seen in my life, like crystal blue. You could like see through them. They were amazing, like pools. So I just kind of fell for him and apparently he fell for me. So we whenever we would go to the stake dances, we would dance together and we would write letters back and forth. Back then, you couldn't really pick up the phone and make long distance phone calls every night because it costs a lot of money and your parents would kill you. So really the way we communicated, there was no texting or no cell phone or anything like that. So the way we communicated was writing letters. And then we would see each other, of course, every stake activity I would go to so I could see him. And I do remember, this is just the weirdest, odd memory, but I remember being in like some sort of a camper with him and sitting on the like kind of couch thing in the back and making out. I have no idea, like, why would there be a camper at a stake activity? But, well, that's, I do remember that day. And there was some other kids, coming and going. And anyway, was nothing like crazy or anything. But so he ended up moving to Bartlesville, Oklahoma. And I remember him telling me that he was going to be moving, and I was just like so distressed because I really liked him. But he said, and that was maybe in the spring that he said he was moving to Bartlesville. And but he said his parents said he could come back for youth conference, which was in August, and we always had it at Worcester College. So this is when like all the 14 to 18-year-olds in our stake, which was probably a couple hundred kids, I would think. Don't you think, Steve?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
We'd get together for 2 or 3 day. I think it ended up being 3 days and 2 nights. We get together and we'd have like group
Yep.
activities, and then we'd have like Bible study. Um, we'd have testimony meetings, and there was a dance. There was two dances. The first night it was more of a casual dance, and the second night was more of a formal dance. So it
Yep.
was just so much fun. And so Jim said his parents said they were going to move to Oklahoma, but he was going to be able to come back for the youth conference. So we continued to write that entire summer, and he would write me some of the cutest, funniest letters and cards. And I would always walk down to the end of the lane. Our farm had a quarter of a mile lane, so it was quite a hike to the mailbox. But I would skip down to the lane to see if I had a letter from Jim. And I remember being so excited if I actually had a letter or a card. And I would get him these cards that like had Ziggy. Remember when Ziggy was a thing? So I'd get him these funny cards that had Ziggy on them and send them off to him. And we tried to like one up each other in cuteness on the letters. So August rolls around and we go to youth conference, and I'm so excited to see Jim. And we get there and I see him and we sit together for the opening session thing. And then that evening we have our first dance, and there's another guy that I liked kind of named Bill Shelley. And he was a bit shorter, still very handsome. He had dark hair, but he had the whole feathered thing going on, which almost all the guys had back then. He was more of a John Travolta kind of guy, and the guy could dance like crazy. He could like swing me around the dance floor, and I just thought he was like the bee's knees or whatever, that's a 50s saying. But I just thought Bill was amazing. So at the dance, I kind of like started leaning more towards Bill and away from Jim. And so Jim started to notice that I wasn't really paying much attention to him. And so the next day, Bill Shelley came and he kind of knocked on my dorm room. We stayed in the dorms at Worcester College. He knocked on my dorm room window and he said, "Come on out, we'll go for a run or something." So I went out, and so we spent much of that morning together. And pretty soon I was giving Jim the cold shoulder, and I was hanging out with Bill. And oh
Girls
my
are
gosh,
awesome.
I'm embarrassed to even talk about it. I just want to go back and throttle that girl. Like, what were you thinking? So, I spent basically the rest of the thing ignoring Jim and hanging out with Bill. And so Jim ended up, I forgot to say this part. Jim was supposed to come to the farm and spend a few days with us after youth conference. He was going to go to youth conference, and then he was going to come and spend like 3 or 4 days with us before he went home to Oklahoma. Maybe even a week. I know it was going to be a while he was going to stay at the farm with us. So at the end of youth conference, of course, that was off because heck, if he was coming to my house after I treated him like that. So he ended up going and staying with, I can see the kid's face, but I can't remember his name. But his dad was one of the big wigs in the stake. And he wasn't the stake president, but he was Grossbeck. His name was Grossbeck.
Well,
He
Grossbeck
went,
was the stake president eventually there.
well,
Right?
so Jim
Wasn't
Burnham
it?
went with the Grossbecks and stayed the time there before he flew back to Oklahoma. And
Griswold
as
was
I,
the stake president who sent me on my mission. So,
oh,
but,
well, there you go.
but at that time he was probably just a counselor. Yeah.
Right.
So,
So I, all the way home from Worcester to the farm, which is, I don't know what, about 2 hour drive. I cried and cried because I made such a fool of myself. And of course, I wanted Jim to be there then. You have to realize I was only
oh,
15. So I was a
oh,
big idiot.
you girls are awful.
So then I was so upset. And so there are some postludes to both of these stories. I guess I'll do the Jim Burnham postlude first. So I think I wrote to him and apologized, and we kind of settled that we would be friends, but nothing more.
Right.
And a few years later, I found myself at BYU the fall of '85, and I'm walking through the student center in the bookstore, and there's Jim Burnham standing there.
Uh-huh.
And I just was like, Jim. And so I went up and gave him a hug and we talked. And he had just gotten married.
Ah,
So he had served a mission and then got married. And
yeah,
it was just really fun to see him.
right,
And, we'd see each other on campus occasionally after that. So, we kind of mended fences and we were still friends, but he still looked just as good as ever.
right.
And then with the Bill Shelley thing, I was only 15 and we weren't supposed to date till we were 16, but that fall was the homecoming um, at Bellevue High School. And I really wanted to go to the homecoming dance. So I talked mom and dad into letting Bill come from Cleveland and take me to the dance because, he's a nice church man. And so Bill came down and took me to the homecoming dance. And I do have a picture of this somewhere. I could probably send you, Steve, so you could put it up. Um, and we had a really fun evening. Mom and dad dropped us off and then they picked us up right after. So, there wasn't any hanky panky going on. And we went home to the farm and Bill actually stayed the night with us that night. So that would have been a Saturday night of the homecoming dance. The next morning, he got up, took my dad, and Steve said he was in the car and they were going off to priesthood meeting. And Bill Shelley got in a car accident on the corner of 113 and Route 4. And if you know Bellevue, you know that that's a really dangerous intersection. There's accidents there all the time. So they got in this car accident, and Bill's car, I don't know, it must not have been drivable. How did you guys get to Priesthood after that? Did
Oh,
we come
let's
get you?
see. It seems like, yeah, gosh, trying to remember that one, Cheryl. Um, it seems like maybe Butch Pellis or something
Yeah,
was
Butch lived in Bellevue.
was
So,
coming down the road not too far after that. Maybe he got us there. I know Bill, I think that was Bill's dad's car or something. And his
uh-huh.
dad really had a fondness, it was an older, I can't remember what type of car it was, but it was an older classic car kind of thing.
Oh,
And
no.
and Bill was just, heartbroken that he had got his dad's car in an accident. Yeah. I
Yeah.
don't I don't remember a lot of details about that accident, but I know it wasn't like we flipped over anything, but it did, it did hit us pretty hard and pushed us off into the ditch a little bit. So,
It must have damaged the car enough that he couldn't drive because I remember that afternoon or evening, we drove him back to Cleveland, our whole family.
okay, right.
I remember that much because I remember sitting in the back seat with him holding hands. So, so Bill Shelley, and we kind of stayed like whenever I would go to stake dances, we would always seek each other out because we were both the best dancers there. I had taken years and years of ballet and jazz and tap and stuff, so I knew how to dance, and Bill did too. So we were
Yep.
each other's favorite partners. And so we would just dance up a storm at all the stake dances. And then there's a funny little caveat to this story as well. My 10th grade year, there happened to be another young man around who I'm going to talk about next week named Martin Showalter. And Martin heard me talking the next day to Shelley and some of the girls at church and saying that Bill had kissed me, like in our living room, I think.
Uh-huh.
And Martin had the hots for me. So he was so jealous about Bill kissing me. And then when he heard that Bill had gotten in a car accident, he felt so good about it. He was so happy about it. And to this to this day, the corner of 113 and Route 4, Martin calls Bill Shelley Corner.
No, okay. Very good.
Yes. So we always know if we say Bill Shelley Corner exactly what we're talking about, because
Right.
that just made Martin feel so much better that he crashed his car. A vindictive fella.
Right.
Oh,
Yeah.
golly. So next week we'll discuss Martin Showalter because that's a longer story than I want to get into tonight.
Yeah.
But so that's my story of stupidity at 15, um, falling in love with one guy and then just
I
pushing
never,
him pushing him aside for a different guy. And yeah.
we should, we will have a whole series of stories to tell about this group, but uh, I never dated Kathy Balfury. Um, although she was going to come out and help me milk the cows that one morning. Um, but I did used to buy her Ziggy cards, and it started in seventh grade. It started when we went to Washington, D.C. that year. And in DC, well, I don't know that I bought the Ziggy card in DC, but I got her a Washington DC T-shirt. She said something to me before I left about, she was just kind of joking, but she was kind of like, get me something, from Washington DC or whatever, because
Hmm.
we'd kind of become friends there early on in seventh grade because we were in the same section too. And so she was kind of like, get me something from Washington DC. And she was thinking, like some little small trinket or something. Well, I got her a T-shirt. Oh, that's what it
Hmm.
was. I got her a Ziggy T-shirt from Washington D.C. And
Aw.
you were there when I got this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure you don't remember that, but
So
um,
that was a temple trip. Is that what we were doing there?
no, that was with mom and dad. We
When mom
went.
and dad took us for the
We
when
went
the
that that
temple was
February.
dedicated?
No, because this would have been 78. So that was 74 when the temple was dedicated. So this was just a family trip to DC.
Ah,
This is when we toured Mount Vernon,
I do
um,
remember doing all that.
the whole 9 yards.
It was just important for our parents to see up for us to see all that stuff. And
So
I can still remember Mount Vernon very well in my mind because it was so impressive.
yeah.
And now they've like rejuvenated it and revitalized it, so it should be even better.
But after that, Christmas time, I would get her a Ziggy card, and in the years after that. But then when we got to high school, that all stopped. But then when I was a senior, I think it was Valentine's Day or whatever, I got her a Ziggy card, just kind of,
How cute.
old times sort of
Right.
thing. And then she was supposed to come out and help me milk the cows that one morning, and something happened with the alarm clock. And then, but normally, if I didn't get up on time, Dad would normally get me up. But occasionally on Saturdays, Dad would milk the cows just to help me out and let me rest. And he just decided to do that this particular Saturday. So I just slept right through. And then I woke up at like 8 o'clock and was like, oh crap, I'm supposed to go. So Kathy had been up since 6 a.m. waiting for me to come pick her up uptown.
Hmm.
And I slept right through it. So
Yeah.
anyway,
Those little missed opportunities. I'm going to talk about one of those next week.
right.
So,
You probably don't know this story either, but when I went into seventh grade, my hair used to hang straight down. I mean, I've just always, just had my hair when I had hair. Um, it just hung straight down.
hmm.
And when we were sitting in study hall there in seventh grade, early in the year, Kathy was playing with my hair one day, and some of the other boys parted their hair, and she was kind of playing around with my hair and parting in the middle, and she was kind of like, "Oh, you should part your hair in the middle and whatever." And I want to say this was, gosh, what was this? Was this right before Thanksgiving, maybe? I don't know, but one day I did. I think I got my hair cut and I parted in the middle, and I came to school that way. And she saw me when I got off the bus coming up the stairs there by the gym. Uh, but anyway, that's when I started parting my hair, and I parted my hair that way the rest of my life. Like Kathy Buffury set my hair style for the rest of my life there in seventh grade, and it stayed that way until I no longer had hair to part. So
For a second, because
I see.
I was trying to find that picture of me and Bill Shelley at the sophomore dance so that I could send it to you. And I went like onto Facebook, and all of a sudden you disappeared. So I was like, oh crap.
Yeah. But anyway, I was saying, yeah, Kathy Buffury is the one who set my hairstyle there in seventh grade, and
And
it
made
stayed
and
that
had you part it in the middle.
and had me part of the middle, and it stayed that way the rest of my life until I ran
Yeah.
out of hair. And
Right.
now I'm going with the straight style again. So sorry, Kathy. going back going back to the original look.
Yep.
But anyway, that was the impact that that girl had on me. So, but we'll talk about more of those Belfiore stories some other time. Um, well,
Your
hey,
hair
thank you
looks so
for,
much like Grandpa Hanson's. I love that.
yeah, thank
That's
you, I
that's
think.
Grandpa's style.
Yeah. The guy that I think I look a lot alike is this Miss Thomas guy. I mean, if you look at old Miss Thomas, all I need to do is get that beard
Ah,
going,
yeah,
and me and Miss, we could be brothers.
that's
So
true. That's really interesting. Yep.
anyway, and he had, he had 13 children, five of whom died at birth, but he was quite the prolific fellow there too. He and
Yes.
Ellen Christina.
Yep.
Um, do you know Grandpa's older sister Margaret, who married? Was she the one that married the Jacobs? Anyway, we were doing our temple work, and there's another Ellen Christina with the last name of Jacobs,
Mm-hmm.
who is also a descendant of Ellen Christina. And then, of course, I have my daughter Ellen Christina. So
Yeah.
there's a couple Ellen Christinas. So that's kind of fun.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for sharing all that good stuff, and we will look forward to to tomorrow night. Tomorrow night is Testimony Tuesday, so we'll have some good things to share there, and we'll look forward to catching up with you all then.
Bye,
Good night, Chris.
everybody.